Welcome everybody to some US League action between myself and Bob Debonise. We're going to start off here with standard. Bob's on the play, he plays a simple swamp and passes the turn. I'm on blue-white cycling, so we're going to see my side of the play here. Not a bad draw. I've got drawn into a Drakehaven as Bob misses his second land drop. I can play out my Drakehaven. I've got plenty of cyclers here, so this is a good position for me to be in. Pass the turn, Bob concedes immediately because he's so far behind, so we're on to game 2 straight away. I couldn't really sideboard because all I saw was a swamp. I didn't know what the hell was going on. So again, I've got my Drakehaven in hand. And I'll just be aiming to land a Drakehaven and then start cycling again. But you can see here he's got Champion of Wits as Esper colours, so straight away I know he's onto Esper tokens. I can run out my own Drakehaven. I do have a cast out, so I'm going to keep that for Anointed Procession. There it is there, I can cast that out. The only thing is, now I have an Ixalan's Binding, so this is probably better. It means he can't play any more Anointed Processions. As Champion of Wits just gets in for 2. Now Tezzeret's not something that I expected. As we just pause that there for a second, we can see the Tezzeret. I'm mainly concerned here with both the ramp from the +1 and also the -7 to give the artifacts an ability. We'll see as we continue the video. He actually has another game plan for the +1s, which I didn't pick up on at the time. And here's a treasure map that's also going to create treasures, so this is setting off alarm bells now. Cast out, I'm going to play now while he's got Tezzeret. Actually, I'm not going to cast out just yet because Tezzeret's ultimate comes down for 7. So he's on ultimate territory now. Plays a renegade map. I can cycle a couple of sensors to get some drakes. Maybe save that cast out for something a bit better because I can handle the Tezzeret with the drakes. He's only got 1 card in hand as well. At this stage, I still don't know what the game plan is really from him. I'm not that familiar with standard. I don't know if he's playing a popular deck. I don't mind the Settle the Wreckage there, a bit of ramp. I can, as long as I keep drawing cycling spells, I'll take down the Tezzeret here because he's going to ultimate next turn. As long as I can keep finding cycling spells, I'm happy, and Search for Skund is going to help me do that. I've got a second Drakehaven, so I can be making 2 drakes off every cycling spell. 14 is still a very healthy life total. Still, he's down to 1 life. He's going to reanimate the Champion of the Wits. So he's got a 4/4. But again, I'm not worried about these creatures because once I get my second Drakehaven, any cycling spell is going to net me 2 drakes. So I've got them well covered. There's a cycling spell sensor. So I can pass the turn. The danger here is if he has a removal spell in combat, but again I don't really care because I can just create so many drakes. He'll swing both, I'll double block the champion. Okay, so hidden stockpile, I'm starting to get an idea of what's going on here because that's a sacrifice outlet. So I cycle the sensor, I make 2 drakes, hopefully find another cycling card. No, it's a Field of Ruin. Field of Ruin will allow me to take down that treasure cove so that he can stop drawing cards. I double block the bigger champion, hope that he doesn't have removal, he doesn't. As just waiting, he's got 4 mana and 3 cards in hand. I have nothing, so Search for Skanta on the next turn. I'm going to be dumping it. Okay, Marionette Master comes down, so the jig is up now. I know what the plan is. I'm on 10. I think I'm just dead to that. Well, he's got only 1 treasure, so he can only do 4 damage here, I believe. Although he's going to get a... I think he can sack that So I'll get a hieroglyphic elimination. Um, I need to get that Marionette Master off the battlefield ASAP, so I'm going to draw and try and find something. I find a cast out, luckily. I can cast out the Master. In response, he's going to sack twice, I think, and that's just lethal. So that puts me down to 2. The Champion of Wits can swing in for the last 2, so I just concede. We go to game 3. I have run into this deck once at my LGS, but I'm not that familiar with it, so this I can't keep. It's got no blue. This one I don't mind. It's got one of my sideboard cards, Crooked Condemnation. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have bought that in because he's not as heavy on the graveyard as I thought he was. It's only the Champion of the Wits. But Abandoned Sarcophagus is one of my good cards. Plays a Hidden Stockpile. So here, I want to run out the Authority instead, just so I can start gaining the life. And that's probably a mistake from me in hindsight because here comes his sideboard tech, the Duress, which will probably get my Sarcophagus. I only play a 1 of, so once it's gone, it's gone. And he plays a Treasure Map. So here I'll just Efficient Magic. Sorcerer's Spyglass is one of my sideboard cards. I'm going to bring that in. I'm going to name Hidden Stockpile so that it takes away a sack outlet. In hindsight, having known this matchup now, I'd probably name Treasure. Although I don't know if I can name a Treasure because I don't think that's a card. You have to name a card. So Hidden Stockpile is probably the best I could name. He's going to duress me here, so I'll just cycle my cast out, hoping to get something worse, but I get a Search for a Skunter. Just keep exiling with the Crook, but I couldn't at that stage because I was tapped out. So now I'm a bit out of gas. I can either counter or cycle here. The servo is just chipping away one at a time. It's not a big deal. Champion of Wits. I'm going to counter that because he's tapped out, so I can also use my Crook to get it out of the graveyard. So Ixalan's Binding here, I've got 2 choices, Treasure Map or Hidden Stockpile. I've got the Sorcerer's Spyglass on the stockpile already, so I'll take the Treasure Map to stop him getting the treasures that he needs to sacrifice to the Marionette Master. Again, that pesky little servo is still chipping away. He's down to 2 cards. Unfortunately, I'm down to 0. So I'm playing off the top of my deck. You can see hidden stockpile. And so here I'm playing out my lands because my main out that I'm thinking of at the moment is Approach of the Second Sun. I've got to get to 7 lands. I've got plenty of time because he doesn't have a lot of power on the board. Now I've got a problem with Anointed Procession. Again, I'll play the land out, pass the turn, because at this stage it's not too bad because he can't sack one of those servos. If I didn't have that down, or now he can as I say that, he'll probably take, oh no, he takes the Ixalan's Binding to get back Treasure Map. Chip in for 2, because it's kind of a combo thing. So I've got my 7, I need Approach now. He uses Hidden Stockpile to sack 1 and then he gets 2 in response. But he can't use the sack function of the stockpile because of the Sorcerer's Spyglass. So here's the Marionette Master, so I'm in big trouble now. Once he gets stuff to sack, I need to get... So I'm going to cycle this because I need to find an answer for that Marionette Master. I can't find it, only a Drake Haven, so now at this stage I'm in pretty much dead territory. He's going to chip in here for 6. Plus he's going to be able to do another 4 damage. Plus that Renegade map's going to come off next turn, which will be another 4 damage. So again, I can't find the answer. So that's going to put me to 16. I don't think that's enough. Treasure map's going to net him all those treasures, and you can see the doubling of the treasure from the procession, and he can just sack those and he's got the win. And that's exactly what he does. 4 damage for each treasure that he sacks, and I will concede. So we're on to modern now. Bob takes standard 2-1. I'm playing Blue-Red Breach here, which is a deck I've been playing pretty consistently. Usually I play Blue-Red Breach or Blue-Red Kiki. And this could be a blue-white control with an Ancestral Vision on turn 1. I know Bob has played around with variations of the As Foretold deck, so that's an option with Ancestral Vision as well. You can see I've got the combo in my hand, so what I'm just building towards turn 5 here. I don't have a counter spell. When I've seen 2 blue cards, I'd be happier if I had a counter. One thing I will be building towards though is because I've got 2 Through the Breach. Through the Breach exiles the card on the next end step, so I can play the first Through the Breach on his end step, and if it counters I can still play the second one on my turn. Architects of Will, so this is some sort of a living end deck. As Foretold, living end. He's cycled 2 cards so far. So this is a flat out race now. I just fire off the Electrolyze just for the card draw. I don't care about the 2 points. Here's my counter spell that I needed. I have the 5 lands. I can play it next turn or the turn after. I suspect that's just a bit of deck thinning from him. So I can remand this Ancestral Vision because I don't really care about this remand. I don't really care if the Ancestral gets countered or not. I'd be hoping to bait out a counter here. He's got 5 cards, so he doesn't really need the 3, I don't think, unless he's looking for something specific. He Cryptic commands, which is awesome. That's basically means I win the match. Cycles a Street Wraith. So he's got an untapped blue source here. I'm thinking Spell Pierce or Dispel, but then he plays Serum Vision, so I'm like, the coast is clear, I can Through the Breach next turn. He's at 16, so I'll still need to do another point of damage, but I've got Electrolyzers, I can flash and Snapcaster. So this game 1 is pretty much safe for me here, I believe. Play out my Through the Breach. Put Emrakul, I'll wipe away all his lands. And I'll drop him to 1. He does have a lot of cards there, so Emrakul will shuffle my graveyard now, which is a bit of a pain, but it's not too bad. So Bob here plays, and I find a second Emrakul off the top so we can quickly get to game 2. Bob plays very Duke style, he doesn't forfeit, so I have to finish him off with Emrakul. And we're on to game 2 now. I sideboard in counter spells, and you can also see Surgical Extraction. I also have 2 Relic of Progenitus for the grave. Izzet Charm I really like in this deck, particularly in the current meta, because it's a good non-creature counterspell. There's one of my sideboard cards, Mana Leak. And also it allows me to filter, looking for my combo pieces faster as well. My Surgical here, I bought it in because I'm expecting a counter war, and if I can Surgical a Dispel Dispel is the ideal. If I can Surgical a Dispel, then great. I think I can win any counter war. He's got 2 Striped Riverwinders in the grave now, so the other option for Surgical is if he does resolve, because I resolve a, I use it, is it to filter here? I found a Remand, which is great. Surgical can take down one of the threats, so less comeback. So he's got Ancestral Vision coming off next turn. I'll just take that because it's a good filter land. And then I've got Dispel, so I've got all the pieces to win the match now. Remand and Dispel and a Mana Leak. I'm thinking at the stage, do I want to remand that Ancestral Vision? I don't really care. There's a 3-1 beater I wasn't expecting. So here comes Ancestral. Do I want to counter? Yeah, I'll see if he bites like he did last time. He doesn't this time. So he's a bit more aware of what's going on. I can't ambush him this time. Oliver just joins the chat. I'll get rid of that pesky 3-1. I don't think he wants to protect that. So now I'm at 13. It's kind of a race. I need 2 pieces. It's a lot to ask. You can see his board. I think he's got enough to I can just let Snapcaster resolve because that's going to be 7 turns before he finishes me. Monoblue doesn't have any burn spells, so I don't have to worry about that. I think he's got enough creatures in the grave now that he can Living End. I don't want the Remand, I've got enough counter spells. But, so I think he's just on the lookout for Living End now. I've got my Lighthouse that's going to be able to start going to work, so any lands that I draw, I've got my 5 that I require. What I actually want is 6 so that I can hold up Dispel. I've got 2 Dispels now, so I'm in a very good position. 4 turns to find the piece that I need. He's just dumped his 3rd Riverwind and his 3rd Curator. Ancestral's about to come off. Put me down to 6. I'm still got a few turns. He's got 2, 4, 5 mana. Again, I cycle. I don't want that island. I don't want that mountain either. So I can keep the mountain to cycle to Desolate Lighthouse. But it's getting to the point now I'm going to have to deal with that Snapcaster. Again, I'll remand the Ancestral Vision just for the cycling. Still can't find a piece. I'm down to 2 turns to find what I need. He suspends another Ancestral Visions. Again, I dig. There's the first piece that I need, so I'm in business now. And I don't want a second one, but it would enable me to Through the Breach at the end of his turn. I play out the land because I can actually get rid of a Through the Breach if I want here. I'm just going to see if I can bait something here by bouncing, tapping and drawing, but he doesn't, and I found the piece that I need. So now I can protect myself with 2 counter spells, 2 Dispels. I'm hoping he's going to spend some mana here so that I can win a counter battle, and he does with Serum Visions. He's still got 4, so I'm thinking, do I go for it? I would lose to 3 Dispels, but because he has to dispel my card first, this is going to wipe his whole board. So I will Through the Breach. There's his first. So if he's got 2 Dispels, I still lose here. But he taps out for Mana Leak, so I've got this match. And I have the Lightning Bolt to finish him off. And because I'm at 3 life, he's Monoblue. I'm not scared of him top decking a Lightning Bolt here. So Emrakul's going to wipe his board once again. I was tempted to Surgical the Snapcaster, but I don't think it's worth it. Shuffle my library, he misses his land drop, and I get an extra bolt just for security. So I take Modern 2 games to 0. On to Legacy now. This hand is okay. It doesn't have a Reanimation, but it does have a Faithless Looting. And it doesn't have a Chancellor, so I'm susceptible to whatever he has in hand. Okay, there's my Reanimation spell. So I can put Iona and Grizzlebrand into the battlefield. Play out Lotus Petal. Now, I went to Reanimate here, and then I thought, hold on, no, I don't want to do that. I better see what's going on the other side first, because I don't need that second Grizzlebrand. I'll unmask and see what he's got going on. So he's having a long think about this. At this stage, I'm thinking I want to Reanimate Grizzlebrand to get the extra card draw. But he Force of Wills the Unmask, and he discards a counter spell to the Force of Will. So I've seen 2 blue spells, so that's kind of changed my mind. I'm going to Reanimate Iona, naming blue. I'm going for it here because, and it resolves, because if he had a Force of Will, he would have had to have used another card. It would have put him to 3 cards, so I wouldn't have minded a counter spell there. So I've named blue, so he can't counter any more of my Reanimation at this stage. So what I'm hoping for is he's on some sort of Grixis build, because that would mean that black would be at least turn 2 before he could remove my Iona, which at that stage I would have pinged him twice, and I could possibly have another creature reanimated. But then he throws a Spanner in the works, and he plays out Tundra. I took a risk taking Iona over Grizzlebrand, so now I just have to hope that he doesn't have Swords to Plowshares. I ping him with Iona. He would have swordsed me right at the start before I got that 7 in, so he doesn't have it. I know that I've locked him out of Ponder, Preordain, and Brainstorm, he can't do that. I've got Reanimate now as security, so I think I'm pretty much safe. I probably should fire it off now, where he can't counter it, but I don't really want to go to 3 because I'm not 100% sure what spells he's playing. And he needs a top deck, and he doesn't, so we're going to game 2. Blue-white, I'm not really sure what the strategy is for the graveyard because I'm not a legacy expert, but I found this new card called Serenity, which I just play a 4 of now because it's just a catch-all, it gets everything. I reduced my number of Grizzlebrands down to 1 or 2 and I've diversified my threats, so I think I got 11 different threats. I'm just going to go for this here to try and bait a counterspell, and I get one. It's a Force of Will. So I can try again next turn. The good thing, my mentality here is that I have more reanimation than he has. I've got thoughts. Okay, energy field kind of is a problem, but again, my Serenity sideboard will deal with that. My thinking here is that I have more Thought Seizers and Reanimations than he has counterspells, so I can just keep firing these off. So I have a look and see what's going on because I've got the second Lotus Petal, all lands. So I can safely reanimate next turn, but I've got to still deal with that energy field. Faithless Looting, I was hoping to hit a second land there, but Reanimate is a possibility, but I'm just going to give it a turn just to see if I can pick up something else. There's my sideboard tech, Serenity. Serenity... Okay, so Rest in Peace kind of screws me up. There goes my creatures. I get the second land. I'm going to run out Serenity now because Scrubland means I don't have to give up Lotus Petal to do it. So Serenity means in my upkeep, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. So it's a catch-all, so if they've got ley lines, it gets them as well. And unfortunately for me, I've got an Elish Norn, a 4 power. I would have liked something a bit better like a Grizzlebrand, but beggars can't be choosers. So there goes all his defense. So now I can start chipping away, see if I can get there fast enough. A second Rest in Peace. And a second energy field. So I'm back to square one now. I need to find another Serenity. Tidespout Tyrant would be very nice. And I find it. As I mentioned previously, I've got 4 in my sideboard, but he counters this one. He can actually hardcast that Force of Will now. I play 4 Serenities because I used to mix it up with different threats, but not much point now. I'm going to keep that Thought Seize because I can actually Thought Seize myself and then reanimate the Tidespout Tyrant once I get those 2 off the field. I'm just going to play and crack the Bloodstained Mice just to filter, because I'm looking for something. But then there's a Spanner in the works. I'm just straight up dead now to Helm of Obedience. With Rest in Peace, it's a combo. He'll mill my deck. There it all goes. So he takes game 2. On to Legacy game 3. This one, I've got Chancellor at my opening hand, but no way to get the stuff in the graveyard. This is almost borderline keepable, but I'm getting greedy, so I'm going to keep this. Put away Grizzlebrand. This one here, I can go with. Leyline is a pain in the ass, but I don't mind it because my intention was to Thought Seize myself anyway to get something into the grave. I'm going to go with Inkwell Leviathan because he has no way of answering that. And he doesn't have mana, so he's not going to be able to exile my graveyard this turn. So he has to counter my spell next turn. Again, I fully expect a counter spell, but when he's down to 4 cards, 5 cards, it's risky for him. And I'm actually quite shocked that this Animate did resolve. So I'm thinking, what's the catch here? My Serenity will actually kill that Inkwell Leviathan if it gets to the point where I have to play it. So now I've got a 6/11 beater that he can't deal with because it's got Island Walk and it's got Shroud. The way that he can get it off the battlefield is to remove the Animate Dead, and then the Inkwell will also die. But I'm not sure if he has anything in his deck that can actually deal with that, as he's digging pretty deep now, and at this stage I'm thinking surely he has answers. I've seen a couple of preordains. The other thing is the suppression field will kind of screw me up as well. I will Thought Seize myself to get that Sire into the graveyard, so I'm risking a Rest in Peace here, but I can't really play around it, because if I draw an animation spell next turn and he doesn't counter it, then it's game over. A Ponder, at this stage, I think there's no chance my animation's going to resolve, because I've seen so many cantrips, he's surely got another Force of Will and a blue card, but I think he's digging pretty hard for the energy field and the other one, Rest in Peace. And there it is. So I'm just going to go for it right now. Just get my attacks in first to drop him to 6. It's a 1 turn clock anyway, so he needs the answer next turn. If this resolves, it's game over, I believe. His only out here would be a suppression energy field. He cracks that, so I knew he had Spell Pierce. Doesn't resolve, and I pass the turn. And there it is. He gets the energy field. So now I'm kind of screwed. Another Exhume, so I'm going to try again. Does this one resolve with 4 cards in hand? And it does. So my Sire Stagnation is going to make him discard all 4 of his cards in hand, which will mean the energy field is gone. So now he needs to top deck something. I think it's only energy field that could save him here. He needs to top deck an energy field. Does he do it? No, he doesn't, and I take the match, and 2 games to 1.